Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think we are about ready to start with the breakout session number 1 about product-specific standards. In this breakout session, we will talk about how the product-specific standards will be developed in order to support the implementation of the essential cybersecurity requirements in response to the Cyber Resilience Act. We have 3 presentations, one presentation on smart meter gateways, followed by a presentation on hypervisors and consumer IoT. In this session, we will focus on the unique cybersecurity needs of the different product categories, keeping in mind that the product-specific standards shall be risk-based, and that the product-specific standards shall reflect the intended purpose and the foreseeable use of the products. It's also worth noting and highlighting that all stakeholders on the market can benefit from the presumption of conformity of the essential cybersecurity requirements defined in the Cyber Resilience Act. Once the product-specific standards are listed as harmonized European standards in the European Union official journal. For now, we will focus on the important and critical products that are defined in the CRA Annex 3 and 4. But the ambition, what we want to do is to create an expanding ecosystem of product-specific standards in the future. And I also want to highlight that it's a joint effort to develop the standards in response to the Cyber Resilience Act, and especially the product-specific standards that are expected to profit from the presumption of conformity. So with these words, I will hand over the microphone and the floor to Enrico for the presentation on smart meter gateways, and I will, Enrico, also ask you to present yourself and the organization you represent here today, and in order for transparency also to disclose any affiliation and other interest that might be of importance for the Cyber Resilience Act. Thank you so much.
How I can control the slides?
Just over there, next to the microphone.
Okay, no more. Forum better. Okay, very easy. Okay, so well, I am here today as in the role of the rapporteur for the Working Group 6, which is especially concentrating on smart meter gateways. By the way, as requested before, just a little bit about me. Well, I'm working for Cefriel, which is a spin-off, not-for-profit spin-off of the Polytechnic of Milano. It's a sort of innovation and research center that is responsible for transferring the long-term research academia results to the innovation instances on the market. And as such, we are doing consultancy for several companies on the market, training and in general, and research with funded projects. So as a not-for-profit entity, I have no commercial relationships with any or interest with any company at all. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn anyway, and I anticipate in the mail through which you can get in touch with us if you are interested in participating in the Working Group 6. So a little bit about what is the Working Group 6 and why we are concentrating on smart meter gateways. First of all, we are concentrating on smart meter gateways and not smart meters and stop, because of course, because it is something that comes from the list of those 41 lines that are listed as the main objects on which we have to define a sort of vertical standards. But anyway, Just to give you a little bit of, let's say, context, even if it has been already underlined by Lucia in the other room. Anyway, I'm just going very briefly. These are the three standardization bodies present in the project. Of course, I am being involved with the public tender, selected through a public tender by SEN and SENELEC to work as a rapporteur on this topic. I have, by the way, one of the things I didn't say is that I have a 30 and so years of experience in cybersecurity. I started to work in cybersecurity in the 90s, and especially since 5 or 6 years, I am following the cybersecurity requirements of one of the smart meter gateway producers. So this is, well, my background, let's say. This is, well, you already seen the slides several times, so I can quietly skip it. This is the relation between the working groups, the vertical working groups, technical committee, and so on. I think that I have already seen you in the other room, so we can skip quietly. Going to the part that is more interesting. Well, with WG9 is interesting because, of course, it is the umbrella under which we are, let's say, having three types of let's say, of indications that you have to be compliant with: the principles of cyber resilience, the general cybersecurity requirements, vulnerability handling, and also the cyber risks methodology by the general point of view. Of course, the activity that we are doing within the WG6 is going to be a document that it will be risk-based as any other verticals, of course. So there will be a lot of activities done with the methodologies described in the WG9, but verticalized in this specific business context. I would say that the WG6, compared to the other WG verticals, as, let's say, a unique characteristic, is probably the only one that has, besides the product, a unique business context. Because the others, for example, on IoT can be applied everywhere. Cybersecurity of chipsets can be applied everywhere, ranging from toys up to nuclear implants. This is the only case in which the smart meter gateways are used only by a specific industry, produced by a specific industry. So there is also business application scenario besides the product as well. So probably is the only one that has this peculiarity. So there is the request for smart meter gateways, okay, for an harmonized standard for smart meter gateways. The articles coming, the request counts from this article 22,23 of the Cyber Resilience Act. There is the request of the presumption of conformity that is foreseen, like at the other verticals as well. And the deadline, the aggressive deadline, is 30 October 2026, considering all the phases of public consultation, approval of the European Community, and so on and so on. I will show you a brief timeline of what this implies, at least. Well, there is a link also to the standardization request from the Commission, but anyway, you will get the slide, so the link will be there. Let's say, the WG6 slates the efforts for smart meter gateway in coordination with the horizontal standard guideline defining WG9. I already said that, but anyway, just to repeat it. So the point is, what is a smart meter gateway? Well, the smart meter is something that, the very low end point of grid, right in the houses. So smart meter gateways is something in between, not directly in the houses necessarily, and it is composed by different communication channels, like for example, WAN, LAN, and NAN, neighborhood area networks. So data are coming from different kinds of networks at the same time, and it is also a head-end system for the collection of data by these points, by these networks, and forwarding them to the grid. And eventually also one thing that, well, this is not only related to electricity, of course. There's the same concept for water, gas, heat, and so on. The only peculiarity of electricity is that this channel is bidirectional, because of course the informations can go in both directions. In the other kinds of let's say, of networks, let's call like that, like such, for example, gas and water, the bidirectional issue is less relevant than in electricity. From an architectural point of view, this is the situation. So we have the gateway type A. Okay, the animation is wrong, but anyway, I have to press several times. Okay, gate A. There are different types of architectures. You know, the gateway could be of this type. There are the things inside the house, the smart meters, they are collecting data through a sort of LAN. There is a gateway which has connections with the cloud. Some of the services or the data are hosted even outside the gateway itself. And there is the wider network that sends data to the grid operator or third parties in general. And there is also another type of gateway, the types A and B, which instead does not have the cloud components, for example. So just to say that the smart meter gateway, by the generic point of view, it is something that is relatively heterogeneous. And actually, one of the other things that we have done in the working groups was to do a sort of surveys of which are the architectures available in Europe. We are ranging from things that are mostly heavily dependent on clouds, while there are other type of things that are instead only elaborating data locally and forwarding to the upper layers. So the point is, well, gateway A is located inside the consumer's premise, able to control local consumption, able to store and process metering data, enable access by authorized third party, and considered critical by the Cyber Resilience Act. The gateway B is in the substation level, protected. That is a sort of protected environment, by the way, compared to the single houses. Connected to smart meter in neighborhood, passes through encrypted metering data without decryption, and includes data concentrators and remote data processing units. Okay. Well, there is also a lot of, let's say, concerns about what it means to protect also the data remote data processing units, of course, because it's another, let's say, broad area of concerns anyway. This is from the very general point of view. One of the other things that we have started to do, oh, by the way, I didn't say the working group 6 started the activities, I would say almost 1 month ago, at the beginning of June, more or less. So we are very at the beginning. And one of the other things that we are doing is trying to define the boundaries of our activity. So defining what is a smart meter gateway, what is not, what is a smart meter, which is the role of the different main components, which is a high-level architecture, which are the critical or important elements, these kind of things, you know. Because of course, even if the European community says that the smart meter gateways are critical components, there is the case in which without some services could end up in the default category at the end. And important is to understand which are the components that are needed to scale between the two categories, you see. So the smart meter, what it does is measuring, this should be a video, but anyway, this is not shown anyway. Smart meter measure energy consumption. Smart meter gateways aggregate secure forward data to enable secure communication with utilities and third parties. So it's much more critical than smart meters and alone. Okay, the gateways, there is this definition which is contained in the article 2.23, which says smart meter systems, again, another term, systems in general, means an electronic system that is capable of measuring electricity fed into the grid of electricity, so upward stream, consumed for the grid, so downward also, providing more information than a conventional meter, and that is capable of transmitting and receiving data for information, monitoring control for monitoring control purposes using a form of electronic communication. Well, there are other definitions, I will say to you just to frame the problem, let's say. But anyway, it is critical infrastructure component because of their role. The risks are data inception, manipulation, unauthorized access, privacy, critical infrastructure takedown, and cyber warfare context. You know, a lot of problems the modern world expose us to, say, the concerns is grid stability and users' privacy as well, but mostly I would say grid stability. So why security? Known attacks, for example, firmware manipulation and backdoors, access to historical consumption data, weak encryption in some deployments, lack of standardized updated risk assessments, uniform between the different producers. That is also underlined by ENISA. And again, example of known attacks. So these worries are not coming from the void. I just found three famous attacks. I didn't mention the last one that happened in Ukraine because it's, let's say, out of Europe's scope, but anyway, somehow near. There was a WiveWare, which completely erased data of the entire grid infrastructure from the evening to the morning. They just came in the morning and found everything was completely formatted. Well, in 2023, Denmark, 22 energy companies using operational technology, malware, tools, specifies about smart meter gateways were limited. Such gateways are considered part of the OT network. There is a source. Researchers across Europe confirms that smart meter gateways are vulnerable through firmware network interface, compromised SIMs, API access as well, because that's also that kind of data access, opening door, remote manipulation, data alteration, grid disruption, and so on. There are different concerns of this kind of things. And then there is also this other reference that is the Annex 1, the line 40, this document probably already. We are worried about the line 40. There are 41 lines. Okay. There is another addition in this table that is quite critical because it refers to the article that I shown before, but it's also comma, including for secure crypto processing. What this means? Well, this is not about crypto coins, of course. It's just about cryptographic management of data. But the point is how, where, for what. So this is quite broad from a general point of view. And there is also the Article 7 of Cyber Resilience Act, the smart meter gateway fall within the category of critical products, which of course entail for highest levels of compliance obligations. Because there is written smart meter gateway within smart metering system as defined in Article 2.23 as before, and the directive of the European. And so these kind of things are included. So that is quite important because one of the early discussions that we have had within the working group was to understand in which conditions the smart meter gateway becomes critical or not. And if it is critical, those that have, for example, cryptographic elements, how they can handle the situation and the compliance. There is also this other definition of draft implementing regulation, the last draft available, which gives another slightly different definition as well, because it also includes other smart metering system measuring consumption of other sources of energy, such as gas or heat. This was the first time included other kind of smart meterings, not only electricity. So we are trying to put everything together, The implementing regulation extend the definition to other sources beyond electricity. Some industries have some security requirements in common, but most of the time they are completely detached to one each other. They are doing things in completely different ways. The ways they are evaluating risks are completely different. So this is the situation now. So challenges that we are trying to face with WG6. Broaden the range of smart meter gateways to encompass gas, water, and heat. That means to approach the problem from a top-down level. Tailor security requirements to the specific commodity and surrounding environments, and adopt risk-based security rules that are targeted for the specific use case. This means that the documents will have a sort of, let's say, a sort of part that is responsible for defining the boundaries, then the general architecture, then the risk methodology, then downwards the concrete risk mitigation measures. And again, different environments imply different risks. Because of course, it is true that the smart meter gateway from the cybersecurity point of view are more or less always the same independently, but from the kind of flow they are measuring, water, electricity, whatever. But at the end, the risks are completely different because of course, for an attacker, attack electricity or water or gas are completely different kind of strategically important infrastructures, you know. And some of them are bidirectional or unidirectional communication mostly. Use case sensitivity is critical in risk evaluation. If the smart meter gateways are going to be used in hospital, industries, critical infrastructures, houses, whatever. Strategic importance of grid, which is relevant, and finding the proper depth of requirements, because one of the things that is for sure quite challenging is to describe all these type of things without going too technical, because of course the document would survive for a few months because technicalities are changing very fast. Just for example, we cannot suggest to use, for example, some kinds of cryptography, because in 4 or 5 years that all will be switched off for the post-quantum crypto, so completely different type of indications. And at the same time, we cannot say just use cryptography. From a general point of view, it's so broad. We have to stay somehow in the middle. Yeah. There is also another problem, let's say problem, characteristic issue, I don't know. Europe, as usual, do the same things in completely different ways. Smart meter gateways aren't one size fits all. There are different types of architecture solutions. For example, Germany has a protection profile that will be applied to the smart meter gateways, which is based on common criteria that is setting the highest bar on security in Europe, anyway. So I would say that in Germany are less worried of all these things because they are already on the top level. Elsewhere, this is not defined yet. And there is a complexity raised by fundamental questions such as how do you draw the line between the kinds that are included and not included in the standard, and the presumption of conformity as well, because it is one of the things that industry is asking for. Then this is what exactly we are doing, we want to do actually in the WG6. So there will be also a webinar upcoming, will be announced through the Senelec channels, and anyway, will be dedicated to smart meters just to better define the problem and the issues and the direction and the one, to also to engage experts, because at this stage, as I said, the working group is just established. We are more or less than 20, between 10 and 20 people at the moment. But anyway, the point is just to give you some additional. How much time do I have? 5 minutes. Okay, very well. You were already here. We were already with the sign. Okay. The modern risk assessment risk must be considered along the whole device life cycle. That's for sure. From manufacturing to deployment. Some of the things are already covered by Cyber Resilience Act. We have to cover the last mile, let's say. Let's say not necessarily the very last mile that is, I will do security in that specific architectural or technological way, something in between, as I said before. We should account acceptable market practices, because one of the things that could happen is that we define a standard that no one will accept or use. So this is delicate. But you know, if you already worked in this kind of working groups, this is quite common, you know. And of course, it includes also the supply chains of smart meter gateways, which includes for sure cloud provider, integrators, and OEM, which are part of the concept of smart meter gateway, like the remote data processing. Some of the solutions cannot work without cloud access, for example. Interesting joining, despite everything I said. If you want to become the member, just contact me through this mail, and we will be more than happy to have you on board. The challenges are those that I said quite interesting, I would say, from the technical point of view, are relatively are very interesting challenges indeed. And of course, there is the possibility to create something that gain visibility in this market, and it is all a matter of embracing a challenge. The challenge is what I said before, so it is a challenge at the end of the day. Yeah, this was the timeline. This is the less funny part because, of course, I mentioned that we have to deliver the standard supposedly at October. Going backward, removing the fixed public consultation, formal voting, public inquiry, and back. We have 2 moments in time till more or less October to write the first draft and then to refine between March and May and then release. So quite intense timing between now and autumn. Yeah, that's what it is. And that was all. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico. Any comments, questions on smart meter gateways? Do we have some questions on the chat? Perfect. Here we have a question. Go ahead.
Hello, I know you're not at this phase yet, but do you have just a thing that you think of when you think a line in the standard that is specific to smart meter gateways that would say do XYZ when you're manufacturing one of these? Do you have an example of something of the specific thing?
Well, yeah. Actually, inside the working group 9, we started to define a list of risks that are common and are, let's say, coming out from the analysis of the Cyber Resilience Act, mandatory things and so on. We will start to work on those risks and then fill the gaps. That means some specific risks for this specific industry. For example, the risks that I mentioned in the slides are specific for the smart gateways. The abuse of data flows, data integrity, and so on, compared with the ways this kind of data are elaborated in that specific, say, operative technology context. Let's say, I couldn't be more precise on your answer because we're right at the beginning, anyway. Yeah, we still have to find answers to that question. But anyway, the idea is, as usual, not to reinvent the wheel, but to specifically focus on the gap that we need to fill for the smart meter industry. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation. As a bit of a generic question, since you're also a rapporteur for Working Group 6, what would you like to say from your contributors, from the contributing members, and how it's a newly developed team? You said 1 month. So what would be the vision for the work group? Well, how would you like things to work out? And give us your personal perspective of what is happening thus far.
You mean in terms of competences that you need to have to participate, or of what I am asking in general from the working group? Okay. Yeah. In terms of competence, of course, let's say, one of the things that we need is to have someone that is already working in that industry from the cybersecurity point of view better, but also not only because one of the things, these kind of documents are in the middle, trying to harmonize different pressures from the down of the industry that needs to be the ones on one side to have an omni-comprehensive document that if they are following what is written in the document, they are safe against any kind of law. That is the downward pressure. From the above, the community wants to have even something that covers any kind of meter gateway in the world for years to come, for centuries to come. But at the same time, this is, well, say, not that feasible, of course, because of course things are changing rapidly. The cyber threat landscape is completely changing every month. So having the perception, the pulse of business needs, and at the same time cybersecurity requirements applied in single industries is very precious. I mean, the members that nowadays are in the working group are coming from smart meter gateway producers that are responsible for the cybersecurity of the products, or components producers, like not directly, let's say the company that is selling the smart gateway, but the company that are doing the electronic for them, for example. And also some grid providers, energy grid providers, yeah. It might be interesting. As far as I know, they are all coming from the electricity world. Other utilities are welcome as well. Yeah, because of course it's one of the drivers, Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I'll switch this. Final question. What is the expected lifetime of smart meter gateway?
Oh, I don't know. I would say many years. The longer possible. I don't know. Well, I can give you an answer based on what I've done for one of the smart meter gateways producers, and I was responsible for defining their security architecture and solutions. The lifespan of a smart meter gateway from the cybersecurity point of view is like this lifespan of OT systems, so ranging from 10 to more years. And the difficulty is of course that you need to foresee that in 10 years the cyber threat landscape completely change at all. So like in OT, you have to foresee different layers of security. Those that are near the device and increasingly distanced up to the grid level at all. Yeah. I don't know if this answer, but yes, so it's not an easy question.
I understand. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Enrico.
Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico. And we will move on to the next presentation about hypervisors. Muhammad, the floor is yours, and please also introduce yourself and mention the company you are representing here today, and any disclosure of possible affiliations that are of relevance for the cyber resilience. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone. So I am Mohammed Haj from Internet of Trust. I am here as a reporter of one of the vertical standard focusing on hypervisors and container runtime systems. So in our company, we are involved within the certification and standardization domain. We are working with ENISA on defining certification schemes like EU5G, and also in standardizations within Oran Alliance, ETSI, and also as a standardization body. So what I have to say is there is no interest or conflict of interest, right? Yeah, so I confirm that. Okay. Okay, so for today, I will give you a status update on the development of this CRA standard. So starting by the definition of this type of products as described by the CRA, and then the first step is to scope and to define what is in scope and what is out of scope of this standard. So also I will be showing what is the perimeter of that standard. the relation with other standards and what is so there is a draft actually not completed, so it is an early draft, and I will show you the structure. And then we are following, I will be showing the different steps and sequence of steps that we are following to develop a SAT standard from starting from defining use cases and also following the risk-based approach for defining our security requirements, and then show you how we are also classifying the security requirement according to the security levels. This work is under the HCTC Cyber. So we have already a work item, approved work item, and the work has been started, let's say, in mid-April. So we have already a team. We have several meetings planned under the HCTC Cyber for working on that standard. So we are at the stage of early draft. So we have already published an early draft, which is not yet the complete sure, but for it contain a lot of it contains like a baseline structure so that members and the delegates can contribute and can provide feedback on that. And then the aim is to finish by. So I think these dates are preliminary dates, but the aim is to finish also in 2026. I think we have the same date, October 2026. This is not up to date, but yeah. So it is also too short on time, and so we are progressing. So the scope, as I said, is to develop security requirements for hypervisors and container runtime system as defined by Article 10 of the CRA. So as you know, so these hypervisors and container runtime systems are key components within the cloud technologies. So this is linked to virtualization and containerization technologies, and we have this kind of products used in the most of our critical infrastructure. And so it is not, they are not component alone. So this is like these components are included within a critical systems. So any compromise of that products will this compromise will be propagating also to the system, and so the impact is very high in case of compromise of this kind of products. So the aim is to have this CRA standard clear enough in order to allow manufacturers to choose the good set of security requirements which reduce the risks for this kind of products. So this is a definition in the draft published by the commission. So to clarify about the product categories. So so we have two kinds of products. So the hypervisors and container runtime systems, this is for providing isolation, sharing of resources between applications. So they have the same objective, but however, these technologies are different. So inside the hypervisors, we have different types. So type 1, which is running on top of the hardware directly, and for type 2, we will have these hypervisors running on top of an operating system, and we may have also deployment scenario, which is hybrid mode combining both aspects. So for the container runtime system, so this is a platform that will run containers. So the containers are like lightweight or compact compared to the virtual machine for hypervisors. And both hypervisors and container runtime system will be managing the resources, the sharing of resources, and the lifecycle management of virtual machine and containers and applications. So there is different technologies, and so this is a challenge also for having a standard that cover both technologies. So as I said, in this standard, we are only focusing on hypervisor and container runtime system. You will see that also the security will depend on other components within the within the operational environment, like the hardware layer, the boot layer, the operating system, and the management and orchestration layer. So our focus is on hypervisors, and what we are planning to do is to define assumptions or security objective for environment so that we can also define what we need as security features and or security services from the other components that are supporting the security of hypervisors and container runtime systems. So what we have in the scope is what is in blue, and the others are out of scope of this standard. So the most of these components within the operational environment are already covered by CRA standard. So here you will see that there are 3 CRA vertical standards that they are also under progress or ongoing. Some of them, I think, they will be starting soon working on that standard. Just to say that we have other standards also for the host OS, the boot manager, and the network management. That's why we need a lot of alignment between all these standards for not duplicating work and for harmonizing, for example, the risk management approach, and also this will help us defining our assumptions in the standard for hypervisor and CRS. So this is a container runtime system. So alignment is essential, and we need to be consistent also with the other related CRA standards. Regarding the structuring options of this standard. So as you have seen, we have two kind of products or two kind of technologies. So we had a discussion within the group about the different structuring options, and the interest is the preference is for option 2 or option 3. There is no decision yet, but so option 2 is for have 2 independent CRA standard, one for hypervisor and another one for the container runtime system, or could be the option 3, which will the difference is in the option 3 we will have a common part which including the generic requirements and or the generic elements that apply to both technologies. And then under that main standard, we will have 2 sub-standards, one for hypervisor and one for the container runtime systems. There is no decision yet, but as it is now, actually, we are working on that standard. We are at early stage of the standard. We have only one document. So this is the table of contents. So we think that we will be maintaining, one document, one working document. It is easy to develop, to collaborate on, to provide feedback. But as you can see, it is structured in a way that is easy to split in the future. So when the decision will be taken to separate, to have 2 standards, you will see that we will have generic security requirements. So this is what so this set of requirements apply to both technologies. They are generic, agnostic from the technology of hypervisors and container runtime systems, and we will have two sets of specific security requirements. So this is the instantiated security requirements that apply to hypervisors, and other set that apply to the container runtime system, with a lot of annexes which provide guidance on risk assessment and all this rationale between the CRA essential requirement and what we are defining in the standard, and all elements with threads, etc. So actually, we have only one working document. It is already published within internally within the HCTC Cyber for collaboration and for contribution and for getting some feedback. So the approach we are following. So it is a phased. Oh, really? 5 minutes. Okay. We defined already the scope, and so we as it is a risk-based, so it has been highlighted many times today about the risk assessment. We are defining different use cases. So I will okay, so this is the use cases. As you know, hypervisor could be used within our within or a product with standalone product within our personal PC or a edge device. And also this hypervisor, the same hypervisor could be used within a private cloud or public cloud. So we have different deployment environment, we have different use cases, and the risks are different according to this use cases. So because of this risk-based approach, and to answer the requirement from the CRA about the proportionality of the risk, we are defining three use cases. So for use cases 1, which is a single node, use case 2, which is the product within a private cloud environment, and the use case 3 for the public cloud in a multi-tenant cloud. So, and we are defining and we are conducting the risk assessment based on these 3 use cases. And from that, we are defining our security requirements. So, also we are following a risk assessment approach, which is based on what we have in the horizontal products. In the horizontal standards in the PT1. So this defines the principle of the risk assessment. We started from that to refine this to the context of hypervisors. We have in the annex of the document, we have the methodology approach we are following, which contain a list of risk factors and the criteria to score and to rate the likelihood the likelihood factors and impact factors. And based on these 2 factors, we will be able to determine the risk level of the product within its use case. As I said, we have different use cases, and here, so we applied the risk assessment to the product within its deployment environment, within its deployment, within its use case, and you can see that we have different risk levels. And based on these risk levels, we defined our security requirements. Here you can see just an example of one security requirement related to isolation, and you can see the generic security requirements, and from that we are refining and instantiating that generic requirement to specific security requirement. A set of requirements for hypervisor, a set of requirements of container. And as I said, as it is risk-based, we are introducing in the standard the classification of these security requirements. We are defining 3 security levels. Level 1, which is basic security requirements. So this is the baseline that all products shall support. Level 2 is adding security requirement on top of level 1 for use cases at risk medium. And level 3, this is the enhanced level. And level 3 is adding on top of level 1 and on top of level 2 a set of sophisticated security requirements that are relevant for use cases at level high. So we are following this approach, starting from the use case, risk assessment, defining of the security requirements, and then the selection of the security requirement levels based on the risk assessment outcome. And here in these two tables, we can see the link between the risk level of the use case, the risk level of the product within its deployment environment, and the relation with the security level. So in this approach will help the manufacturer to select the set of security requirements that are sufficient for reducing the risk, and so this is what the manufacturer need to implement to reach the CRA compliance. So it is already an early stage, but we have a lot of things in this document. So so delegates are reviewing and are contributing on that, and so it is also open to any feedback, so we can again restructure and consolidate all this kind of things. So the work is in progress, and so if you are interested, if you are HC members, so you can join that group. Also, if you are Select delegates, we have regular meetings also with the other reporters on this standard. And as already highlighted, we will have a lot of events, also webinars, to also share this information with all stakeholders and get feedback and adapt our standard to be like to have this standard visible and useful and relevant. And sorry, and this is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Excellent presentations. Any questions, reflections on the presentation on hypervisors? Thank you. So let's see, we will continue with, yeah, exactly. We will continue with an overview of the product-specific standards for consumer IoT. Let's see if I can push forward. Yeah, on the agenda we have the work items for the standardization request related to the consumer IoT. And we will also take a look at the actual development of the harmonized standards, or the standards to be harmonized and listed in the official journal of the European Union. So I am not the rapporteur of any of the work items for consumer IoT. I am the technical officer for the technical committee on cybersecurity at ETSI, and that is what I do when I'm not presenting consumer IoT presentations on events like this. Let's see what we have. When we look at the regulation, we can clearly see that there are specific important products with digital elements that fall under the category of consumer IoT. These are, for example, smart home virtual assistants and internet-connected toys and personal wearables, to mention a few. When we look at these harmonized standards to be developed in response to the essential cybersecurity requirements of the Cyber Resilience Act, if we dig a little bit deeper, we can see that that when, for example, we talk about the smart home virtual assistants, that they include products that interact and connects devices in a residential setting. So this gives the presumption that these kind of products belong to the category of consumer IoT. For the smart home products, we have products limited to certain product specific features, such as smart door locks, security cameras, baby monitoring, and alarm systems. And by alarm systems, we also expect to be included products like smoke detectors, as one example. And we already talked today about toys and toys connected to the internet, toys with connectivity features based on, for example, technology like Bluetooth. And we saw some of the threats that can be involved with that if we do not consider cybersecurity requirements in the CRA. And that is what we want to avoid, to have products on the market that are not safe and secure to use by our consumers. So if we look at the toys, one specific thing that kind of is to be highlighted is that some of the toys have a geographical location features integrated into the toys themselves, which at least sounds scary to me. And so there are things that we need to consider there. And going forward, looking at the definitions for the wearables, that is personal wearable products that we actually expect people to be products to be placed on a human body to, for example, monitor health-related data. And that is also something that we are looking into. That includes categories like, for example, fitness trackers and smartwatches and other similar products like that. And also here there is a link to consumers that can be children who are in a specific vulnerable situation when it comes to these kind of features in a product that is connected to internet. And a short overview of what those products can be, to get an understanding of that one, we have the health-related monitoring devices that are connected one way or another to the internet. And already mentioned the smart door locks and the toys. But it's also worth mentioning that that these IoT devices for targeting the consumer market can be quite sophisticated, and therefore we will have in our planning at ETSI Cyber to work on 4 new work items for consumer IoT, and that is the expected standard to be EN 304.631, 2, 3, and 4. And with these 4 standards, we are working on right now, and they cover the important products in the CRA. And you can follow the work that we do in ETSI on these standards by logging on to the internet and looking up our portal etsi.org. Here you can find the meetings that we are scheduling in relation to the consumer IoT work items. You will find it under the meeting tabs. And you can also find the work program and the status of the work program under the work program tab. There's also a complete set of contributions available for everyone, where you can follow, for example, the meeting reports and the meeting agendas, so that you can get a feeling and understanding of what we're going to talk about in the next meetings. The good thing is that all of this is openly available for everyone. You don't have to be an ETSI member to access this information. And I also want to highlight that under the drafts tab pretty much in the middle of the PowerPoint here, you will find an updated list of all the drafts that we are working on. And I also want to mention that this is not consumer IoT specific. This portal is available for all the work items that we work on, that is coordinated by TC Cyber in ETSI. Excellent. So let's see. I mentioned that this can be a complex setup in many cases. It doesn't have to be that, but it can be. So in the example, for example, of wearables used by children, we can have a wearable that is monitoring health of the child, transferring the data possibly to a mobile application. The mobile application is maybe connected or can be connected optionally to a cloud service where the data is stored and processed. And on the other hand, the wearable on the child can also transfer the information and data to other wearables, and possibly even have the use case where medical help can be alarmed in case of detected emergencies. And if you look at the drafts that we are working on and how they might end up looking, or once we're done with that, oops, that something unexpected happened. So in the presentation, you will find that there is like a draft. Oh, we're back. Are we? Yes, thank you. Perfect. And I don't know how to get rid of that thing that's on the screen, but don't worry about that. Yeah, thank you. So we can see that we have like a draft table of content that we expect to cover in the draft. And there are some elements that you might find familiar from what we talked about and covered earlier today. So this is an example of how it can look like once we get going. This is very much work in progress. And we have started, and you are welcome to join us. And I want to remind and highlight that working on product-specific standards is a joint effort. You're all welcome to join us, and we are appreciating the help we have received already from many of our members, and also new colleagues that have joined us through the cyberstand.eu project and other ways as well. And we are working on the product-specific standards jointly together with CEN and CENELEC. So it's very much a joint effort to build a more secure and a more safe and a more resilient society. So with these words, I want to stop the presentation here